Okay, welcome everybody. I'm so nervous and excited and a little bit scared, but mostly excited about today's live stream video because this is something I've never done before, and it's to celebrate something really exciting. So this video is only possible because of reaching 150 patrons on my Patreon. So this is to celebrate that, and I'm excited because this is something that I've never let people see before. I've taught my students to arrange songs, and so then we go through the process together. But apart from that, this has never been available on the internet before, to show people the actual process that I go through inside my head, but I'll be telling you out loud as I'm arranging a song for voice and harp. And the reason it's to celebrate Patreon, so I reached 150 patrons, which is insane. I don't think I ever thought I would really reach that number. And it's a really special moment for me because my patrons are really the reason that I can do what I do. So when I first started YouTube, I thought it would always be a hobby. And it was Patreon that allowed me to take the step from working part-time and doing music part-time to actually doing music full-time. So I was at that time performing and doing YouTube and Patreon and some teaching. And Patreon, so it changed my life, and it's continued to grow and change as what I do online has grown and changed. And now it's a community of harpists who encourage each other. And we have virtual harp circles, people ask each other questions, and a lot of what happens in terms of the community on Patreon doesn't even always involve me. It's people chatting to each other and helping each other. And I just think it's something that's so beautiful, how we can join from all around the world. And so today's video, I'm only stepping out in bravery to show you this because I want to do it for my patrons to say thank you for reaching this milestone. And I thought I would show the rest of you on YouTube at the same time. So if you're one of my patrons, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You really have literally changed my life, and it continues to be a really big, important part of what I do. So today's video, I am arranging this song. It's called Counting My Footsteps to You by Reg Muras, and it's going to be an interesting one to arrange because this song has made me cry at least 3 times when listening to it, and I think I've probably only listened to it, pretty much every time. I'm close to tears, and I wanted to choose a song that really had meaning to it. I do that every time. I really try to choose songs that touch my heart because then I feel like it can mean something when I'm performing. But this one particularly is a very sad one that makes me cry. And so when I'm arranging a song, that's first what I try to do, is to really connect with the song and think about, what is the song making me feel? What do I want to put across to the audience with the song? And I listen to it about 1 million times to prepare before I even start with the harp.
How many times have you listened to it by now?
Oh man, I've probably listened to this, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 times in the past few days, because I only decided on Monday or Tuesday to do this song today. And yeah, so that's the first thing I do, and maybe I'll let you into a little bit of what the song means. So I've printed out what Reg says about the song. Reg Muras is a musician from England, a folk singer and songwriter, and he just writes beautiful songs. And I've met him a number of times in Cape Town, and done a bit of jamming with him, so I can count him as a musical friend, but very much also a hero and somebody I look up to a lot because of what his songs contain such depth and truth to them. So this is what he says about Counting My Footsteps to You. I've played many concerts in care homes and memory cafes, mostly to women suffering the ravages of some form of dementia, and I've always found the experience extremely moving and humbling. I wrote this song after a visit to the Abbeyfield nursing home in Taunton. The first time I saw Margaret, she told me how much she loved her job. We talked about my music and the sweet memories it brought back to her. She told me she had to go as she was off to visit another school. The nurse gently ushered her into the tea room and explained that she had stopped being a school inspector 10 years ago but didn't realize. She told me that Margaret wouldn't even remember this conversation in 5 minutes. I saw Margaret again when I was playing the same nursing home. She smiled sweetly at me, but it was clear that she didn't remember me. At the end of the concert, she shuffled off to her room. No words this time, no animated conversation, just sweet, quiet resignation. Even that description makes me want to cry. So this song is about dementia and a little bit of a window into what it might feel like. So it's not specifically about Margaret, but it's inspired by people like her when Reg was performing at nursing homes. I did put a link in the description box to the video, so if you want to watch through the whole song, you can do that, but I'm going to be playing little clips as I would when I start arranging, and I've got a little speaker set up so that you can hear what I'm hearing, even though I'm going to probably put it into earphones. So before I get started, I think I should just check in with the comments. I'm already like in the mindset of a sad song. You can probably tell I'm like all subdued, but let me check in with the comments so I can at least say hi to you before I get into it. Okay, so I see Cynthia's here and Rebecca, Yakumin, and Nick is here from Harp in the Yard. Hello everyone, my friends. So nice to have people watching. And Danielle, I see Andreas is watching from Germany. We're all over the world. BD Newfound is in Florida, and Janet is watching from South Carolina. Lots of friends from Patreon. Cynthia, Dora, Aneta, Rimmel, Wait Without Thee. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. I'm sorry if I didn't mention all your names. Oh, Carrie's here as well. That's great. And I think there's more than one Cynthia, so hello to both of you. And I hope you enjoy. This is kind of like a view inside my mind. And one thing I didn't mention earlier is I haven't tried anything on the harp for this song. The closest I got was playing a D chord to see whether you'd be able to hear my harp at the same time as the song, and that's all I've done. And I already knew the song was in D just because that's the only chord that Rage gave on his website. Okay, so what I have here is I have the words printed out to the song. There's no chords because it's not available online, so I'm going to have to listen, use my ears to figure out the chords. And then I've got all the words and space for writing the chords in there. So let's get started. Oops, let's get a bit untangled here. Okay, so I like to use headphones because then I can really hear all the instruments and I can hear more details. Also, Reg often performs this with only guitar, but I'm using the album version because it has multiple instruments in it, and whenever I hear a song with multiple instruments, it gives me more inspiration of what I can do with the harp, whereas if I'm hearing only one instrument, it gives you a few less options. So let's listen a little bit, and I'm going to first try and figure out the chords. It's not starting yet. Okay, can you hear it? Yes, good. I think it needs to be a little softer for you guys so you can still hear me. Okay, so it's definitely a D in the beginning.
Waiting in line for the rain.
A G.
Gathering pieces of blue.
I think that's, okay, so we had D, G, and then back to D, and then a G with a B in the bass. So this might seem like super quick to you. Let me just grab my pen. But basically all I'm doing is I'm listening and then I'm looking for the note on my harp, and this is something I've been doing since I was 14, like transcribing and listening for the chords. So that's why I'm really quick at it, but it's okay if it takes you a little longer. So we have D, waiting in line for the G, rain. I think it actually might be a D over F. Let's listen to that again. So we go back to the beginning of the singing.
Gathering.
Okay.
Waiting in line for the rain. Gathering pieces of blue.
Gathering pieces of
Waiting in line for the rain. gathering pieces of
Gathering pieces. Yeah, probably what I'll do is a D over F sharp there, so that means there's an F in the bass, gathering pieces of, and then it goes to G. That's quite nice because you have this F in the bass, and then it goes up to the G. Let's keep going. So I'm not choosing, I'll make a few notes here. So I'm not choosing exactly what I'm going to play yet. I'm just figuring out the chords. Also, I won't sing the song in this exact key eventually because I've been singing along with the recording and it's not the right key for my voice, but I like to work out what I want to do in the same key as the recording first so that I can fiddle around and play along with the recording, and then later I will change it to a key that works for my singing. Okay.
blue. Counting the cars, there's too many stars.
So that's a D and then an A. Counting the cars. And there's a mistake in the words, or at least it's different to what's in the recording, so I'm just changing that as well. So D, counting the cars, and A. And there's too many stars.
Counting my footsteps to you.
And that's a really nice bass line that's going down. So,
yeah, it sounds the same.
yeah. And then it has this note. Anyway, okay, so we've got some basic chords there. Let's go back and check them. It's the same chords here. I forgot. I didn't write down what I did there. What was it? So it's sometimes I don't even write out the chords because I just do it by like remembering what I felt. Dum 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 dum. So it's like a G, and then D over F, D over F. So. It doesn't really matter as long as I remember what it is. I don't need to write it down.
Waiting in line for the rain. Gathering pieces of blue. Counting the cars, there's too many stars. And I'm counting my footsteps to you.
Oh, I was doing it here.
Somebody love me, okay. I'm searching my mind to find you. So send me to bed if I
I want to hear what the bass note was there.
to find you. So send me to bed if I lied when I said I'd always remember you.
Okay, cool. And do you hear all those top notes in the or here in the piano? So sometimes it's nice to add little kind of bits of decorations that I hear in the piano part and not just stick to inspiration from the fingerpicking guitar part. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through it and see if I can pick up some of the interesting notes, because Reg has tuned his guitar in Dad-Gad, which means that he tuned his guitar in a chord and then he's playing particular chords
How do you know
over
that?
it. I know that because he often does, and it has this particular sound with the type of chords and
And
things.
also you watched a video of him playing it, right?
Yeah, and mostly because I watched a video of him playing it and I could tell that sometimes he didn't have any fingers on the notes and it still sounded like a chord. And also because Cara told me when she watched and she's played more guitar than me. So when there's and also it says on the piece of paper here. So the lyrics that he put on his website, he didn't put chords, but he did put that it's in D, dadgad. So that gives a particular sound to the chords. So you didn't just hear a normal D chord. It's like something like that. So that happens a lot with dadgad because of what they do. I'm not a guitarist, but it's a kind of distinctive sound. So what I want to do now is go back through what he played and figure out some of those interesting notes, because that gives a particular atmosphere to the song. And then after that, we'll turn it into something that works well for the harp. So I'm just going to do a bit of transcribing now. That's what you'd call it.
Wait.
Let's go to the very beginning. Did you hear that? And then the piano did something there as well, which was quite cool. I lost it. Did you hear that? Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you can do that kind of thing where I might consider adding in, because with the harp I have all the notes right there. I just got a T delivery. That is great. Maybe I should check in with the comments. Is there anyone saying?
An opportunity to say something to the people?
Yes, please do.
Oh, can you? Okay, I gotta get into the camera. Guys, sometimes I feel like Christy-Lyn has an extra brain that I don't have. Because, and I just want to share it with you because I sometimes feel like I have negative musical knowledge in comparison with Christy-Lyn. And I don't want you to feel like you're the only stupid person in the world, because sometimes I feel like that.
And Megan has a lot of music training.
Yeah, I've trained, like,
Wait, let me move out the way for you, Megan. I'll have my sip of tea while you sing my praises.
No, I'm just making the people feel better. So, like, I did piano all the way from lower primary school all the way up to the end of high school, and I did cello, and I sang a lot with my sisters. So you'd say I did quite a lot of music. But my goodness, when Christy-Lyn was saying, when she was just playing it now and saying, did you hear that? Did you hear that thing? I didn't hear any of it. I'm sitting right there. Because for me, I hear the whole sound. My brain isn't magically like dissecting what you're hearing, what she's hearing, and then turning it into understanding of what's happening in the music and on the notes. Like, that doesn't happen naturally for me. And I know Christy-Lyn like didn't come out of the womb knowing that, because I came out of the same womb, but like, she's trained that.
Such a weird thing to say.
Sorry. She's practiced. She's developed this knowledge, like she said, since she was 14.
That's a lot of years. That's
a
more
lot
years than
of years of her practicing listening to music and dissecting it. So I'm just trying to say, don't feel stupid if you can't hear what she's hearing or magically figure out what she's figuring out, because with practice you can get better. Okay, that's all. Bye.
Okay. And I'll add to that today's video is not meant as like an instructional video, like step by step of what you should do if you want to arrange a song, because it doesn't have to be this complicated. You could just find the chords online, if the song had chords online, and then just play something really simple from the chords. I just wanted to show you what I do, and this is what helps me to not get stuck in a rut and play the same pattern over and over when I'm making new harp arrangements of songs, because you could get into, like, maybe the pattern that you like playing is like, so I could do that, like waiting in line for the rain, gathering pieces of blue. It's not the good key for me. Frightened of cars, and there's too many stars. So I could do something really simple like that if I wanted to, but I don't like doing that as an automatic because I may end up with something that's similar to that, but I want to leave all opportunity for having inspiration from what Reg did and coming up with something that I've never done before. So that's what I'm doing, and I hope it's interesting for you and not too overwhelming.
Cynthia says it's neat to see your process.
Oh, good. Okay, so I wanted it to be interesting, not scary for you. And no, Carrie, I'm not finished the tea yet. Okay, so let's see, where were we? Let me listen to it again. This might take us a while, but we'll get there.
Waiting in line for the rain.
So I heard this. So what I'm doing there is I heard a little pattern that I kind of found. And then once I've kind of got into the zone of that particular pattern, I can apply it to the other chords without having to hear every note, because otherwise we'd be here all day. Maybe there's an interesting note there that I can look for.
Pieces of blue. Counting the cards, there's too many stars.
That's quite nice because when I add this note on top, it makes it sound not just like a normal A chord.
And I'm counting my footsteps.
So what I'm doing now is I'm taking that little moment of all the chords that are happening, and I'm trying it in different octaves with different little versions of the notes, having different notes of the chord on top or below, different inversions to see what feels the best on the harp. So it doesn't have to even be that complicated. That's quite nice. And I like to, even though there may be so many options of what I can do, I do like to simplify things quite a lot when I'm singing and playing. I don't want to be overwhelmed and playing this like orchestral thing when I'm singing at the same time. I want to be able to think about the words and communicate what I want to say to the audience, look at the audience without concentrating too hard. So even though there's lots of options in the beginning, I try to narrow it down.
Is that Cynthia?
Cynthia says, I love seeing you create it. It's almost like we can see the wheels turning in your brain. Yay! That's exactly what I hoped for in this video.
Is the singing be Celia?
What do you say?
The
Singing
singing-
via... Yes, that's Celia. Hi, Celia! Welcome! Now I'm finished the tea, Carrie. Okay. Okay, let's see what we've got so far without listening to the recording. Let's see if I can remember some of those interesting notes. Like that before, have I?
No, it sounds really pretty.
I mean, I often use this shape with the left hand, 4-2-1, but I just find that that's a useful shape because you have access to the bottom note, the middle note, and the top note. So I'm not doing I'm kind of repeating the notes sometimes. See how I'm doing? That time. Sometimes I'm repeating that middle note, sometimes I'm putting the top note. Oh, you wanting to watch? I was wondering why Megan's head is coming around the computer like that. So although there's something inside me that says, Christy-Lyn, you shouldn't be using like this 1-5-8 shape because it's something you've used many times before. What I'm doing, and I'm syncopating it with the right hand, and it's ending up sounding like something quite different to what I've done before. So I think that's okay. So I can't really sing along at the moment. Waiting in line for the rain, gathering, because it's very low. Pieces of blue. I'll do it a few times over to see whether it feels right. Actually, I want to listen for a moment to what happens in the beginning there again. So this is the process. It's not a linear process. It's a lot of backwardsing, forwardsing, and testing and listening, and mostly a lot of listening and testing. That would be quite nice to actually work out that. So if you play one particular note louder than the others, I can get it to sound like a melody even though it's in the same range. Sometimes the quite like that. Okay.
Oh, that is pretty.
Yeah. Oh, that was nice. Dun, 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 dun. That was like a nice little melody happening there. Oh, that's cool. Man, I get so inspired by all these little tunes because it's not something that... I know it's not... Some of the stuff is kind of... Like I might hear guitarists doing it more often than harpists. And that's what's so inspiring about making a guitar part into a harp part is it brings things that are normal for them that are unusual for me, and then it's really fun to work it out. But I'm probably getting a little carried away. So I could do this for hours and hours and hours and just try out all the options and see what I want to include. But maybe I should move away from this for a little bit now, and show you some other parts of what I do, because I don't only do what I hear in the music. Sometimes I take like one verse, it works well to do just that kind of basic version, and then other verses I might start adding more bass if I feel like the meaning of the song is changing, like if there's more depth to the meaning in this particular space, or maybe there's a place where I feel like what we're talking about is more sensitive or needs to give a faraway feeling. Then I take out some of the notes and make it a bit quieter, or I might play it higher up on the harp. And so maybe I must just stick with what I've got so far in terms of listening to Reg, and I must start just playing around with the harp, because it could be here all day. So I probably will still come back to Reg's recording and get a little more inspiration. So if you hear the song in the future, it might be a little different, but maybe there's one more part I need to do before I do that, because there's a part that where it says, Mary, I don't know my age anymore. Like the melody is a little different and the chords are different.
It's kind of like a chorus.
So yeah, let me just work out that part, and then we'll start going through the whole song and seeing what we can do. Oops, oh no, I went to the next song.
Send me to bed if I lied when I said
So sad.
I'd always remember you.
Okay, here's the next part.
Mary, I
So that sounds like an A. Yep.
don't know my age anymore.
Age anymore. So Mary, I don't know my age anymore.
My mother says I'm 104. Listen,
So that's cool. Mary, I don't know my age anymore. My mother says I'm 104. It doesn't go back to D that time, it goes up to A.
leave. My mother says I'm 104. Listen to me, leave me alone. Mary, I
Ah, that little piano part distracted me.
You get to start.
Oh, it's the top note on the harp. I don't know if I'll add any of that in, we'll see. But it's nice to have that little sparkle on top.
my way. Listen to me, leave me alone. Mary, I can't find my way home.
Okay, so I'm just gonna write in those chords. So, it was A. Mary, I don't know my G age anymore. D. My mother says that's A. My mother says I'm 100 is G, and 4 A. And then back to D. Listen to me, leave me alone. That's a G. And then back to D. Mary, I can't find my A. Way home. And then I think it goes back to that.
Leave me alone. Mary, I can't find my way home.
How long does it carry on? Back to it does like the whole intro. Oops, played the wrong note. Okay, Okay, cool. So we've got the basic idea. Now, from listening to the song before, I know that in the very last verse, at the very end of the very last verse, Reg does pull away a little bit with what he's doing with the guitar.
Before you can move on to that, there's 2 questions.
Yes, okay.
Do you want to do that?
Yes, sure, let's do some questions. You add your own flavor, you personalize the song. Yes, so that's what I'm going to be doing now. So first, I draw inspiration from what the person, the song I'm listening to, and I try and figure out what they're doing. But I pick the parts that I like, and then as I'm playing it through, it becomes more and more my own, and I bring some little flavors for different verses that weren't necessarily in the original. So that's what I'm going to be doing soon now. Yeah.
And then Kerry just above.
She says, do you find it's just a repeat so it can be quite quick to work out a whole song as you're only doing one sort of chorus? Exactly. So I won't have to work out the chords again. Sometimes with some songs in a particular verse, there'll be a little bit of a chord change to bring interest. From what I remember, this song doesn't have that. He brings interest just by the words and the story, which is so touching. And little different things happening with the different instruments in the album version. But when he's performing with him on his own, it's just guitar, and there's not a lot of variation in different verses because he wants people to focus on the words. So, but I like to, personally, for when I'm making arrangements, I like to do different things for different verses to try and complement the words and really encourage people to listen to the words. So I'm going to try and figure out a bit of that now. So I do know just from listening to the recording that in the very last verse, he pulls away and kind of almost stops playing the guitar, like just plays one little strum per bar, per measure, whatever, or per phrase at the very end to bring intensity to the words, because it says, but the scent of your hair sometimes hangs in the air. And that's also, he wants it to sound like it's hanging, like it's like scent of your hair, scent of your hair sometimes hangs in the air, and I'm counting my footsteps to you. So that ending, I know he does that, but I like to pull back like that, maybe a little. I was thinking as I was listening to the song yesterday that I might like to do that a little earlier than that for that whole verse, and maybe I'll do it in a few more places, we'll see. Okay, so I think the first thing I do before I'm really going to play through it and really get into it is now I want to put it into a key that will work for my voice. So the way I do that is just by singing it. Waiting in line for the rain, gathering pieces of blue. So my voice is very high. I have a high soprano voice, which was great when I was singing in choir, but sometimes these days it's not the most useful because I want to sound like I'm speaking when I'm singing this kind of song to tell a story. So I want to be near the lower range of my voice. I don't want it to be high and piercing, but my voice can't really sing clearly in this range. And then frightened of cars, or counting the cars.
You can't go there.
Yeah, I can't go that low. Counting my footsteps to you. Okay, so that tells me that I need to be probably a fifth up. So I might be playing this whole song in A. So let's try that. So now I have to kind of think of.
You have to transpose the chords in your head.
Yeah. Yeah. Night for the rain, gathering pieces of blue, counting the cars, and there's too many stars, and I'm counting my footsteps to you. And so I would like to make it lower than that, just for the waiting in line for the rain. That's kind of high. Waiting in line for the rain. Like, I don't want it to be too piercing. I can get higher than that. I can sing higher quite easily, but for the feeling of the song, I don't want it to sound high, if that makes sense. Waiting in line for the rain. Waiting in line for the rain. Gathering pieces of blue. thing is that I think for Reg it was high in his voice as well, so we are used to that sound from listening to him. Somebody love me, okay, searching my mind to find who. Send me to bed if I lied when I said I'd always remember you. I definitely can't make it lower than that, unfortunately. So I will just have to make sure that when I sing this note, I don't go, waiting in line for the rain. Or like, waiting in line for the rain. I need to go, waiting in line for the rain. Waiting in line for the rain.
So to kind of make it as squeaky as possible, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I want it to sound light. To remember the things I've done in the other key, so it might take me a while.
Do you want to explain to them the process of transposing it up 5?
Sure, yeah. So when I'm transposing, so I was playing in D major, and I just decided that based on the lowest note that I could only sing a fifth higher. So instead of singing a bottom D, I can sing comfortably an A below middle C, and I knew that the song was in the key of D originally, so the lowest note is the name of the key. So instead, because I wanted my lowest note to be A, I made it into A major, so I changed my levers to make sure that I'm in A major. And then what you can do is you could sit and say, okay, if the first chord is D, now it's a fifth up, it's going to be A. The second chord was G, it's a fifth up, it's going to be D. So you could do that. I didn't need to do that because in my head, I know I don't just think of the chords as D, G, A. I think of the chords as 1, 4, 5, because I know that those are the chords that I'm playing with. Like that's what the numbers you would give them. So jazz musicians use this a lot. So that means that when I transposed it into A, I know that 1, 4, 5 is A, D, E. And so I didn't have to work out what the chords were from counting. I could just play A, D, E for whenever there's 1, 4, 5. I didn't explain that very well,
no,
but
you did well. It makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I know I'm singing very softly. Because and there's too many stars, and I'm counting my foot. How what would it be? So the reason I'm kind of struggling here is because it's in a different, it's so much higher up that I can't use those low notes and it's sounding kind of different, so that's kind of putting me off a bit.
So what do you mean?
That
You would
little
run out of
pattern,
strings.
yeah, I would run out of strings if I was playing it so low, because I was doing it when I was in D, I was playing this G chord. But if I do that now low down, I'm going to run out of strings. I guess I could do it an octave higher, so I just kind of got distracted or didn't do it right. So I did it from a third up, so it'd be it just sounds weird up there, so then I'd have to adjust it for this key. mistakes, am I?
Yeah, but I think move on from this idea.
Okay. So yeah, I just need to. But what I'm trying to do is find myself in this new key. Okay. So I'm kind of like, what's a bit of a pity is that when it's this much higher, I either have to have the whole harp part sounding high, a little too high, or a little too low. So it's not a clear thing where I just put it into a new key and then it's fine. I kind of struggling. I'm trying to find myself in this new key of like how I can play in a medium type range, because if I play really high the whole time just by putting it up a fifth, then I'm going to end with this kind of tinkling sound that doesn't sound very grounded. And if I put it down a fifth, I'm going to run out of notes and it will also sound a bit too bassy. So it means that I have to test out different inversions and kind of different fingering patterns. So although I want to fast forward for you so that it's not boring, I kind of need to fiddle around with this a little bit, because I can't start finding the mood of each verse until I've got some kind of something that I've settled into. Does that make sense, Meg?
Yeah, totally. But do you want to first answer 2 questions before you do that?
Yes, okay.
Rebecca Jackson and Renee.
Okay, Rebecca says, what key is your harp in without engaging the levers? It's in E flat, and that's just because I like to sometimes play in flat keys. But for you, if you were to play in A or D, you'd just put the sharps up. I'd have to put the flats up too. And Renee says, you're saying that 1-4-5 is a pattern that is frequently used for transposing to a different key, and you recognized it so you could use it. I find this fascinating. Oh, I'm glad it's fascinating. I feel like it's kind of both vulnerable for me to be exposing my thinking and also possibly boring because it's hard for me to put it into words.
No, I think you're doing a really good job with this one.
So no, I would, well, 1-4-5, yes, it's a common pattern that you could look for. You could guess the chords would be 1-4-5, but it's more like that's just a way of naming the chords in a way that makes it easier to transpose. So we often, when we're playing from chords, we will name the chords according to the letter names, like on the scale, but they also have corresponding numbers because of where they are in the degree of the scale. So for example, if I was playing in the key of C, a chord of C would be 1, and then a C, D, E, F. F would be chord 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be chord G. And you will find when you're playing in the key of C that you most commonly play chords 1, 4, 5, C, F, and G. And the fourth most common chord would be the relative minor, which is 6, A minor. And so that's not why I'm choosing those numbers for this piece. It's just because I'm playing in D. I'm using the chords D, G, and A, which are 1, 4, and 5. They just are, because D is 1, 2, 3, 4 would be D, E, F, G, and then A would be chord 5. So they just are that. That's just how I'm naming them, so that once that's how I think about chords, so that when I change to a different key, I automatically know which chords to play. So it's rather a way of thinking and naming. Okay, I think I over-explained that. Okay, let me try again. Okay. singing, that's not what I'm focusing on. Counting cause, and there's too many stars, and I'm counting my footsteps to you. Nobody love me, okay. Searching my mind to find who. Send me to bed if I lied when I said I'll always remember you. Waiting in line for the rain, gathering pieces of blue, counting the cars, and there's too many stars, and I'm counting my footsteps to you. So interesting. Only once I put it into a different key, I'm finding that this is not the best song for my voice, actually, which is quite an interesting one, because I didn't really pick that up when I was singing along with Reg in his key, because I was putting an octave higher. When it was too low for me, I was singing along an octave higher, and then I was singing along in his register. Different people's voices sit differently in their range, like and particularly because I have a very high voice, a song that needs to have this kind of speaky sound to tell the story is going to sit very low in my register if I don't want it to sound piercing. And so unfortunately, this is the kind of song I love the most, but it's the kind of song I may not end up performing as much as others, because I will just sound very soft when I'm singing it. But I think also as I get used to the song more, maybe I will sing out a bit more. At the moment, I'm really concentrating on the harp part, but we'll see. Sometimes there's that disappointment of realizing that the song is just, as much as you love it, it may not be suited for you, but we'll see what happens.
Could you read a few comments?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a few that have been waiting for you to
Okay, yeah.
Cynthia?
This is really neat. I've been able to pick out melodies, but I've never had to do something with more complicated and layered patterns by ear. Very helpful. Oh, that's good. I'm glad it's inspiring. This video encourages me to listen to a recording of a song I want to arrange for harp. I've only worked with piano sheet music, and I can see how that is limiting my options. Yeah, it's so inspiring. So, and I'll come back later, I'm sure, and maybe add some of these little high notes. We'll see. She's starting more in my vocal range. I'm always amazed how high she can sing. Yeah. Actually, as much as it can be nice to have a high voice, there's definitely downsides to it when you love folk music. I find it very encouraging that you didn't come out of the womb knowing all of this, and that it is practice as well as natural talent. You are all so inspirational. I'm glad that was encouraging. You make me want to try this out even though I have limited musical knowledge. Yes, you should do it, because I mean that's what I did in the beginning. So I can actually remember the first time I did something like this. It was with I think it was The Water is Wide by Charlotte Church. Charlotte Church's arrangement of The Water is Wide, and I sat down at the piano and I listened to it for hours and hours and hours and hours and just tried to pick out the notes. And then I wrote out the sheet music and I played my accompaniment that I had written while I sang in the singing I stayed for a singing competition. So I was the only person performing in the category of self-accompanied song when I was probably 15. So that was the first time I did this, and it took really long, and now I can move quite quickly through the stages of like figuring out what works for me and finding the inspiration. Wait Without Thee says, thanks for doing this, Christy-Lyn, fascinating process. Besides listening to you play, I love watching you form. Have you made a video about how to float and other hand or leg position pointers? Yes, there's a video where I talked about how to not build up tension. That's about floating and hand and position and all of those things. Yep, I think there's quite a few about that. Maybe you could watch the one about the height of the harp. That affects things a lot as well. And Cara P says, I didn't miss the live stream. Yay. Okay, I'm glad you made it. I'm still very much going, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do the full process today because, as you can see, it's something that I have to sit with for a while, and I'll probably come back to it over the next few days. And these kind of things have to like grow. You have to give them time. But anyway, so let me see what kind of variations I might be able to do.
I actually really have to go.
Okay, you can go.
Yeah,
It's fine.
teach a dancing lesson.
My sister needs to go, but it's okay. I'll carry on without you. Yeah.
All right. So
Thanks,
the
mates.
comments will just scroll. So
Okay, that's fine.
You'll see. Good luck. Have fun.
Okay, enjoy
Bye,
your
everyone.
evening. Yes. Waiting, waiting in line for the rain, gathering pieces of blue, counting the cars, and there's too many stars, and I'm counting my footsteps to you. Somebody love me, okay? Searching my mind to find who. Send me to bed if I lied when I said, I'll always remember you. Mary, I don't know my age anymore. My mother says I'm 104. Listen to me, leave me alone. Mary, I can't find my way. So I'm just doing the instrumental here. Now let's see what I would do for the next verse. Everything's in the wrong place. Everything's broken in two. So as soon as I hear those words, I think, okay, is there something I can do to make things seem more broken or confusing? I don't know, maybe I won't, but I might try that. So to get the meaning of the words in how I play the harp in this part. I'll start the repair when I find out just where I'm counting my footsteps to you. This place is just like a hotel or a prison, sometimes I'm not sure. For my postal address, try just sleeping, I guess, or the weeping behind any door. Seriously sad. Okay. Maybe I'll start adding in. So that's not necessarily because of the meaning of the song. I'm just thinking I want to bring something a little interesting, bring some variation up here. So I like the feeling of, as I'm saying, and I'm counting my footsteps to you, that it goes back to this. without any of the high notes, because I'm counting my footsteps to you, I think is an expression of like wanting to be back with the person you love. Maybe it's somebody who's passed on, and or it's just the feeling of home. They're wanting to come home. And so when it says those words, I probably throughout the song will come back to that same place on the harp, because it shows that coming home feeling. But then in the second part where it says this place is just like a hotel or a prison, sometimes I'm not sure, for my postal address try just sleeping, I guess. And then it ends with, or the weeping behind any door. Maybe I'll try something that's might show that it's more sad there and it's not coming home at that point. So for my postal address, and then maybe I'll just go up. So my postal address, try just sleeping, I guess, or the weeping behind any door. I don't know if that sounds quite right. I might leave that for later on in the song. We'll see. And then this next part. Mary, I'm lost and there's enemies near, speaking in voices, speaking in voices I don't want to hear. Mary. So sometimes when there's a feeling of lost, I might put like a repeating thing in the harp. So like speaking in voices I don't want to hear, and then listen to me, leave me alone, Mary, I can't find my way home. Let me check in with the comments to see how you're doing. Home can be where you feel at home, more cryptic. The song is, oh, someone's asking about the song. All right, yeah, you can always tune up the mic. Well, I'm glad you guys are still watching, and thanks for being a part of this process. So let's see. Now this next verse says, loved ones and friends come and go like the sun and the moon fade from view. Loved one and friends, loved one and friends come and go. Like the sun and the moon fade from view. Sun and the moon fade from view. Pray the sun sets and I never forget who I'm counting my footsteps to. Ah, thanks. Another tea delivery. This is thirsty stuff. Thirsty work. And I think I'm going to have to end soon, but this has been an interesting process. So I've come here, let's just look at this last little verse and see what I might do for this. Come here from so far away, and my poor brain is broken in two. Actually, that's pretty cool if I have the just one chord quite low down, and then I do these little things up here. It kind of gives that feeling of like broken in two. So come here from so far away, and my poor brain is broken in two. But the scent of your hair So for the next few days, I usually obsess over the song and play it anytime I'm at my harp. I just go over and over and over it. I try out slightly different patterns to see what's comfortable, because you can see like my hand position is not super comfortable right now. I'm not I haven't necessarily found the best fingering or anything like that. I'm just playing around with the feeling of the song, and so as I play it more, it's gonna change and develop, and eventually I will find something that feels really good, and depending on how it starts to feel in my voice, I may start performing the song once it's really comfortable. And by going over it so many times, of course, I also start memorizing the song. So memorizing it is not really going to be a big problem, because I'm making the harp part to suit the words, and I'm going to go over it so many times that by the end of this I'll be ready to perform. And yeah, so Renee saying I hadn't considered that Mary may have passed on before him. I was thinking if she was his living wife, this is a truly sad song. Yeah, I think it could be that that he's speaking to a wife that's already gone, because often people with dementia live in a present that is actually the past, and so I think that goes really well with that interpretation. But it could be, yeah, it could be anyone from their past, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a man's wife. I don't know, but I think that the song just needs to give the feeling of like confusion, and sadness, and a feeling of really wanting to come home, because I think when people have dementia and they're in that state, everything's so confusing and often really distressing, because what they feel like is the present is at odds with what they're experiencing right now, and so that's also they often start to show some characteristics of how they might have been when they were children, or calling people mom and that kind of thing. So I really want to try and bring that sensitivity out in the song if I were to perform it. I don't have experience with somebody, none of my grandparents went through dementia, but I have seen it with some other people. And when I was a student as an occupational therapist, I did a block where a block which is like a practice learning environment at a center where in the high care with people with dementia. So that was really hectic for me, because I hadn't seen anything like that before, and a lot of the people there couldn't even speak anymore. And then later on, after my studies, I've performed quite a bit in the high care sections of nursing homes, and well, we call them old age homes here, or retirement centers or something like that. And so I've spoken to people there who are also going through this, and performed for them with the harp, and seen how music can bring something to life that for the rest of the time really feels like it might be gone for those people. So I think it's really beautiful that this song came out of Reg experiencing that, where he performed and saw how much of a difference the music made, but then also how much confusion these people are going through. And so I think it's a really beautiful song, and hopefully I'll be performing it sometime. So I'm going to check in with your comments, and then I'm going to end off. Let's see. Yep, okay. Pauline says, thank you, truly inspiring. I'm very new in my harp life. And then Salba says, it's beautiful. I got so caught up that I dipped my knitting yarn in coffee. Oh, that's funny. Sorry about that. I hope it dries out okay. And Kerry said, I only recently found out that dementia kills you. I thought you just died with dementia. I didn't realize it could actually be the reason for death. Well, I guess the brain is slowly dying. And wanting to go home has more than one meaning in this context. Yep. Trying to remember in an unfamiliar place, a care facility, yes. He wants to go home, maybe to a physical home, maybe going home to a feeling of peace or happy times in the past. And it could also mean going home as in having relief from life. I know this was scary for you to do live, but it was lovely and fascinating listening to you work through the song. Hope we hear the finished version someday. Maybe you will. And thank you for joining me for this and for sticking with me and commenting along. And a special thank you to my patrons. I know that many of you are watching. And this video was only... I only had the courage to do this and was motivated to do this because I wanted to do something really special that was out of the ordinary that I wouldn't normally do, just to show how thankful I am that, I mean, even though you're getting a service through Patreon and we've got a community there, and obviously you're getting something for your money, it's not just supporting me. But I think it takes a real level of trust for you to be putting your money on a monthly basis, trusting that I will continue delivering the services that you're hoping for. And yeah, that just shows that you trust me, and I'm so thankful. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we have that community of harpists that can encourage and support each other. And we can be going through this learning process together and making friends all around the world. I just think it's something so incredible that I wouldn't have even imagined years ago. So thanks for being with me today, and maybe someday I will show you a full version of the song. I'm sorry I didn't complete it today, but sometimes that's how the process goes. And maybe I'll do something like this again sometime with a song that is a little different. So yep. Cynthia says, not only is your process amazingly beautiful, but your explanation of dementia was so beautifully stated. Thanks for letting us share this process with you. It's a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. And I'm going to have to go around the other side of the computer to end this. So bye and thank you. I hope you have a good day.